Hello everyone, welcome back, and in this video lecture we are going to study about the functions and disorders of basal ganglia. So let us begin with the functions of basal ganglia. The one of the most important function of basal ganglia is control of voluntary motor action. As we have seen various loops in the brain in which basal ganglia is involved. This we have done in the previous video lecture. In that, the motor loop and the oculomotor loop was the first one what we have seen, and by the virtue of those connections, what happens is the basal ganglia is involved in the voluntary control of motor actions. So when we see the voluntary control of motor actions, what all things it control? So first aspect is cognitive control. That means basal ganglia and as well as the cerebellum, both of them are involved in planning of a movement. So whenever there is a movement has to take place, there is, before the movement starts itself, there is a discharge present in the basal ganglia and the cerebellum, and thus it shows that basal ganglia and cerebellum are the one which are responsible for planning and then initiation of the movement. So any movement is initiated, planned and initiated by the help of basal ganglia as well as cerebellum. So that is the cognitive control of motor action, which is the function of basal ganglia. The second function is timing and scaling of the motor activity. That means how rapidly it has to take place in aspect of timing and how large the movement will be in aspect of scaling. So that is the second function, second motor function of basal ganglia. So the rapidity of the movement and the scaling, the large or the small. Let us say if you have to write on a blackboard or if you have to write on a piece of paper, the scaling will be different and the timing also will vary according to the movement required. So that is the function of basal ganglia, timing and scaling of the movement. And the third aspect is subconscious control of movement. That is when there is a movement is going on, primary movement like walking is going on, along with it there is subconscious swinging of arms, okay, or when a person is talking, along with that the facial expressions, or when you're driving and the clutch and brake and the gear, all the interactions which are going on occurring subconsciously are under the control of, or under, to some extent are under the influence of basal ganglia. So that is how the subconscious control of movement is also under the influence of basal ganglia. These are the three aspects of the control of voluntary motor action. Then comes the control of reflex muscle activity. That means if there is a damage to basal ganglia or certain disorders, the reflex activity of the muscle is impaired. That shows that the basal ganglia has some role to play in the reflex muscle activity also. Then comes the control of muscle tone. So there is a defined pathway to control the muscle tone from the basal ganglia. It is from the cortex to the striatum to the substantia nigra, from there to the reticular substance, and from the reticular nuclei to the spinal cord, and from the spinal cord gamma motor neuron stimulation. Okay, so this is the pathway to control the muscle tone. And as we will see in the Parkinson's disease, there is rigidity, and this rigidity is because of the gamma motor neuron discharge or gamma led rigidity. That is how basal ganglia, in which in the Parkinson's disease, as the basal ganglia is the defect is there in the substantia nigra, it has a defect of muscle tone, thus telling us again that there is a direct relation of muscle tone with the function of basal ganglia. So basal ganglia is also involved in the control of muscle tone. And the last is role in arousal mechanisms and other visceral functions of the brain. So if there is any lesion in globus pallidus, what happens is there is decreased arousal, there is drowsiness, and it leads to the sleeping or the sleepiness of the individual, and thus it plays role in arousal or awareness. It also plays role with as we have seen in the previous video lecture about the other loops going through the basal ganglia. it has the emotional loop, the logic and reasoning loop, and thus it plays the function of those visceral functions of the brain, that the emotional functions, the logic and reasoning function of the brain is also involved with the basal ganglia. So these are the functions of the basal ganglia primary to be considered. Now coming to the disorders of basal ganglia, the first and foremost to consider is Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease, if you see the etiopathogenesis, it is basically an idiopathic disorder. Usually by aging, what happens is when the person becomes older, the substantia nigra becomes less functional. But in case of the people who are suffering from Parkinson's disease, this reduce in the function is exaggerated. That is why the Parkinson's disease appears. Okay, and this can be primarily it is idiopathic. It can be because of the secondary causes also, like viral infection, meningitis and other things. The main symptoms of the Parkinson's disease are grouped under three features, that is akinesia or hypokinesia, that means the lack of movement or less movement; rigidity, that means the increased muscle tone; and the tremors, that means the involuntary movements which are repeated. Okay, so those are the tremors. Now when we see the feature of akinesia or hypokinesia, what are the things involved is there is diminished facial expression, lack of associated movements, that is when a person is walking, lack of swing movements, the movements is difficult to initiate and difficult to terminate. That means once the person is unable to initiate a movement, and once it is initiated it is difficult to terminate. Okay, and then comes the rigidity, that means the increased muscle tone. There is a gamma led rigidity in case of Parkinson's disease, and then comes tremors. The characteristic is pill rolling tremor, and this tremor, one more important feature of this tremor is it is resting tremor. That means at the stage of resting, when you are not intending to do any work, that time the tremors will be more. Okay, in case of cerebellum there are intentional tremors, that means when you are intending to do some movement, at that time only the tremor appears. So those are intentional tremors in case of cerebellum disorders. But in case of basal ganglia disorders, the tremors are the resting tremors, that means at rest the tremors are present. So this is certain the clinical features of the Parkinson's disease, that is masked facial expression and forward tilt of the tongue, the reduced arm swing, that is the associated movements are reduced, slightly flexed hip and knees, shuffling gait, that is one of the characteristic feature, festinant gait or shuffling gait, trembling of extremities, flexed elbows, rigidity and stoop posture. So this can be classified or remembered under this mnemonic, that is TRAP, trap. T for tremors, R for rigidity, A for akinesia, and P for postural abnormalities. So this is the clinical features of Parkinson's disease. The main aspect of Parkinson's disease is the pathophysiology of Parkinson's disease. So why? Because of the degeneration of substantia nigra this disease appears. As we see, this is the combination of direct and indirect pathway, this diagram, and in this diagram, as you can see here, this is the direct pathway in which the cortex, the striatum, which includes the caudate and putamen, from there to the globus pallidus internal segments, and from there thalamus, and from thalamus back to the motor cortex. That is the direct pathway. And indirect pathway is from the cortex to the striatum to the globus pallidus external segment to the subthalamic nucleus to the globus pallidus internal segment, and from there to the thalamus and the frontal cortex. This is the indirect pathway of basal ganglia. Now let us see the effect. What is the major function of direct pathway? It is the function of the direct pathway is to give stimulation or to give stimulation to the thalamus so that it can stimulate the motor cortex. And the indirect pathway is opposite, that is inhibition. So it inhibits the thalamus, and thus the motor cortex does not receive further impulses, and thus causing the breaking or stopping of the action of what has been initiated by the direct pathway. Okay, so this is a normal function, and for that we have learned in our previous class that substantia, not just the stimulus from the cerebral cortex, but the stimulus from the substantia nigra is also necessary. The substantia nigra was contributing in two ways. That was, it was stimulating the direct pathway and it was inhibiting the indirect pathway. Okay, so normally substantia nigra stimulates the direct pathway and encourages the stimulation of frontal cortex through the thalamus, and it inhibits the indirect pathway and thus still encourages the stimulation of frontal cortex. In both the ways, in both the mechanism of action, substantia nigra is encouraging the stimulation of motor cortex through thalamus by stimulating the direct pathway and by inhibiting the indirect pathway, which is both the ways are stimulatory. So its action with the help of dopamine acting on D1, which acts on the direct pathway, stimulates the direct pathway, and D2 inhibits the indirect pathway, which inhibits the frontal cortex. So thus with both the actions it encourages the movement to take place. Now what happens in the Parkinson's disease? That these both the pathways degenerate. That means the substantia nigra, the neurons which are coming from substantia nigra are less or devoid of dopamine, or the destruction of neurons have taken place. In that case, what is going to happen is, this diagram when we see normally, when we see in this diagram, it is depicting the effects of the lesion. It's not the normal diagram, it is showing the effects of the lesion, in which let us see what is the effect in the direct pathway first. So when this D1 mechanism, the stimulation is diminished of the direct pathway, what will happen? The stimulus from caudate and putamen will decrease, and thus this was inhibiting globus pallidus. So when the stimulation of direct pathway is diminished, the inhibition will become smaller, or inhibition will diminish. Okay, it will decrease, resulting in an increased discharge, tonic discharge of globus pallidus, which will inhibit the thalamus, and thus the excitation to the frontal cortex will decrease. Okay, so because D1 is not working properly, D1 is not stimulating the direct pathway, the action of this neuron has decreased, and since the action of this neuron was to inhibit globus pallidus, the inhibition, since it is not working properly, the inhibition is decreased, and since the inhibition has decreased, the globus pallidus has started working more and thus inhibiting the thalamus more, and thus the output of the thalamus is ultimately decreased. Okay, so this discourages the movement to occur and thus causing the decreased excitation of the motor cortex. Now let us see the effect in the indirect pathway. What is happening in the indirect pathway is, with the help of D2 it was inhibiting the indirect pathway, but since it is not properly working, the inhibition will be less. So since the inhibition will be less, there will be increased stimulation or increased output from the indirect pathway. Okay, so since the inhibition is more to the globus pallidus externa, since its excitation is more to the globus, since the D2 is not inhibiting the neurons arising from here, these neurons will fire more, and since these neurons are firing more, it is inhibiting the globus pallidus externa more. Okay, so inhibition to this has increased because of the lack of D2. Okay, so this inhibition has increased. Now since its inhibition has increased, its discharge to the subthalamic nucleus has become less. Okay, so when this gets inhibited more, its discharge becomes less and the subthalamic nucleus will act more. Okay, since it was inhibited by this and now the inhibition has decreased of the globus pallidus on the subthalamic nucleus, the subthalamic nucleus will work more, and since the subthalamic nucleus supplies to the globus pallidus internal segment and it is working more, it will stimulate the globus pallidus internal segment more. And now since it is stimulating the globus pallidus internal segment more, indirectly it is inhibiting the thalamus more, and thus decrease excitation of the frontal cortex because the thalamus is inhibited. Okay, so in both the cases direct pathway is diminished and globus pallidus is working more, and in indirect pathway is increased, and which increase the action of globus pallidus. So in the absence of the activity of substantia nigra in case of Parkinson's disease, the globus pallidus inhibition on the thalamus is more, and thus thalamus is unable to provide sufficient input to the motor cortex to cause excitation or to cause movement. That is why the symptoms of akinesia and bradykinesia is appearing in these disorders. So that is the basic of the pathophysiology of the Parkinson's disease in this diagram which is explained. Now, before we end this Parkinson's disease, the mode of treatment of Parkinson's disease is L-DOPA, levodopa, okay, that crosses the blood-brain barrier and gets converted into dopamine and thus acts on these receptors so that the normal input on these direct and indirect pathway can be restored and thus relieving the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. Another disorder which we can look at to understand the mechanism of working of basal ganglia is Huntington's disorder or Huntington's disease. Huntington disease is a genetic disease which is autosomal dominant, and it appears at the age of 30 to 40 years, and it is having a characteristic motor disturbance along with the certain behavioral disorders. Okay, so the most important motor disturbance in case of Huntington disease is undesired ballistic and choric like dance like movements. So ballistic means aggressive movements and choric means dance like movements, and these are the major symptoms, major pointing signs and symptoms in case of Huntington disease. And as apart from those symptoms, there are also increased irritability, suspiciousness and impulsive or eccentric behavior, defect of memory and attention accompanied, but the major disorder is a motor disorder. Similarly, there is one more motor disorder which is called as hemibalism, and this is due to the damage of subthalamic nucleus. So we can just understand this Huntington disease and hemibalism with the same diagram, because hemibalism also includes the less output of subthalamic nucleus, same as in case of the Huntington disease. If you remember, in case of Parkinson's disease this output was more, so it was in case of Parkinson's it was creating less movement, whereas if the output of subthalamic nucleus has decreased, it is creating symptom of high movements or involuntary ballistic movements. So what is happening here? So in case of Huntington's disease, the primary disorder is degeneration of this indirect pathway. The neurons which are arising from the caudate putamen responsible for indirect pathway gets degenerated, and this causes the decreased inhibition of globus pallidus external segment. So since these have degenerated, the inhibition of these neurons on globus pallidus externa has decreased, and since the inhibition has decreased, now globus pallidus external segment will discharge tonically more frequently, and the effect of globus pallidus externa will be increased. So this will cause increased inhibition of globus pallidus internal segment and increased inhibition of subthalamic nucleus. And subthalamic nucleus, since it is inhibited more, its excitation of globus pallidus is decreased. Since it was having an excitatory glutamate glutaminergic neurons, since it is inhibited more by the globus pallidus externa, its stimulation has decreased and its effect on globus pallidus internal segment is decreased. So ultimately, by both the pathways, what is happening is the globus pallidus internal segment has been inhibited more, and since this has been inhibited more, the tonic inhibition has decreased. This was the final output of inhibition to the thalamus, and this final output of inhibition has decreased. And since the thalamus inhibition to the thalamus has decreased, thalamus has more chances to excite the motor cortex and cause the movement. So there is involuntary ballistic or choric type of movements because of the increased excitation of motor cortex by the thalamus, which is ultimately because of the less inhibition by the globus pallidus internal segment. So this is the mechanism of the Huntington's disease. And in case of the hemipallism, this would be normal, but this discharge gets diminished, which is ultimately producing the same output, that is the inhibition. The inhibition will decrease because of the inhibition of or the breakage of indirect pathway here in the subthalamic nucleus, and this is not able to stimulate globus pallidus internal segment, and thus in that case the tonic inhibition will be less, and thus thalamus will be having higher probability to stimulate the frontal cortex and thus stimulating the movement more. So that is the basic pathogenesis behind increased movement because of this particular type of abnormality in basal ganglia, which is opposite to the decrease in the movement in case of Parkinson's disease. So in both the cases, if you see, globus pallidus is the ultimate output which determines what is going to happen in the disorder. If the ultimate output of globus pallidus has increased, akinesia or hypokinesia symptoms will be there, or if the ultimate output from the globus pallidus internal segment has decreased, then the hyperkinetic disorders, that is the ballistic movements, choric movements, would be the symptoms. So that is the ultimate thing, and this globus pallidus is influenced by both the direct and the indirect pathway, and that is how to understand the mechanism of basal ganglia and understand the disorders of basal ganglia. I hope this would help you to understand more about the basal ganglia, and we'll see you in the next lecture.